Oliver Horn was a sad, lonely, useless boy whose life changed when entered a prestigious magic school that wasn't Hogwarts, sadly. He discovered that not everything is as it seemed like the Wizards of Waverly Place, and now he has to hone his skills to eliminate threats that endanger the students. On the day of the entrance ceremony at the academy, Oliver the bootleg Harry Potter felt nervous, which a talking flower pointed out, advising him to relax despite any terrible future, typical Undertale flowy lore. Oliver wondered if the flower said this to every new student. He saw Katie, another student, worried about the terrible future. Guy reassured them not to worry about the plant's remarks, explaining that the academy's plants absorbed magic particles and developed nasty personalities. The flower was basically just high off some stardust. Katie, who loved magical fauna but knew little about magical plants, was relieved. Michaela warned Pete to watch his step to avoid insulting the plants. The flower offended a student, Nanao, noting her unusual samurai attire, which surprised the others as to why a shogun's daughter was in Hogwarts.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
Arriving at the academy, Guy was impressed by a parade of magical fauna and spotted a dragon. Oliver explained it was a Fafnir, and Katie, a magical fauna enthusiast, looked unhappy because a kind troll was among the parade, which she believed didn't deserve such treatment, like being trolled. Katie and Guy debated Troll's nature, but Pete interrupted, needing to read in quiet. Oliver suggested they introduce themselves later. Suddenly, a student cast a spell on Katie, causing her to run uncontrollably towards the troll, and the group chased her. As the troll prepared to attack Katie, Nanao jumped in to help. Michaela's spell to distract the troll failed, but Oliver suggested using a wind spell like airbenders going to Hogwarts. They cast a spell called Impetus, and Oliver modified it to sound like a dragon's roar, diverting the troll. Nanao, whose hair turned white signaling innocent color, struck and incapacitated the troll, thanking them for their help. Later on before the ceremony, Oliver realized Nanao had faced the troll without a plan and that her katana lacked a blade. She confirmed, explaining her innocent color hair allowed powerful mana circulation, like she maxed out on chakra control. Luther, a staff member, asked the students to shut their pie holes, and he introduced Headmistress Esmeralda. Teleporting to the podium, she apologized for the parade incident, explaining that the academy valued freedom and results. She warned that only 80% of students graduated, while the rest faced severe consequences. Nanao offered unsolicited advice about curing headaches, which Esmeralda ignored, leaving her sad and lonely once again. Continuing with the ceremony, Esmeralda announced the welcome banquet and used her hocus pocus to reveal tables and chairs on the ceiling. Older students joined the freshmen. Oliver and the other homies gathered to introduce themselves. Michaela was from the esteemed McFarlane family, and Guy was from a long line of magical farmers who knew a lot about magical plants, especially the kinds that Dr. Snoop Dogg always taught about. Katie was an exchange student who loved magical fauna and was grateful for their help. Pete, from a non-magical family, noted the difficulty of gaining an ordinary slot at the academy, and Oliver's family had been magical since his grandfather, and he had cousins at the academy. Nanao, from a samurai family in Yamatsu, was saved by a mage during a war and was invited to the academy to be like the Power Rangers. Michaela guessed the mage was her father, a part-time lecturer at the academy. They taught Nanao some dining manners as she attempted to eat a whole roast beef. Goku would be very proud of her. Early in the morning, Oliver explored the quiet academy. A covert operative, Teresa Cast, sent by Gwyn, introduced herself and revealed she was tasked with watching over him. Oliver then saw Nanao bathing in a fountain. He created a magical curtain for privacy and scolded her, explaining that public bathing was inappropriate as people could see the very interesting but forbidden regions. Nanao mentioned purifying herself from warblood, but had forgotten to bring anything to dry off. Oliver gave her his mantle, noting that Nanao was both strange and innocent, but carried an inescapable scent of blood that would make her get along perfectly with vampires.
Nice.
Oliver and his new friends gathered in the morning, with Guy almost oversleeping because he's got way better priorities. Pete asked them to hurry with breakfast since their day was filled with classes, and Nanao was excited about the magic class, wondering what it would go on in them. Luther Garland, the instructor for sword arts class, greeted the students and asked if they knew what sword arts were. Pete explained that sword arts were techniques using athames, which mages had carried for 400 years since Wilf Badderwell's duel loss to a non-magical opponent. I thought it was just sword art online. Luther praised Pete's knowledge and asked for volunteers to demonstrate. Nanao quickly volunteered, and Richard also stepped forward, wanting to see Nanao's skills after hearing about her defeating a troll with a sword. Oliver suspected Richard wanted to take advantage of Nanao's lack of experience, and also volunteered, mentioning his fight alongside Nanao against the troll. Oliver pointed out that Richard hadn't helped during the troll attack, which annoyed Richard. Michaela stepped in, suggesting she duel Richard instead, as it would be more impressive if he defeated her. Luther announced 2 duels, Oliver versus Nanao and Richard versus Michaela, like some Mortal Kombat special. He cast anti-lethality spells on their swords, stating the duel would end with a mortal blow to the head or chest, just like a fatality. Oliver decided not to use magic since Nanao couldn't, but he quickly remembered her innocent color ability as the duel started. Nanao attacked with innocent color, overwhelming Oliver. Realizing her skill, he decided it was no more Mr. Nice Harry Potter, and they engaged intensely until Luther stopped them, noting they had unconsciously broken the anti-lethality spell. Michaela asked if Richard could handle Nanao's attacks and requested their duel be cancelled, which Richard agreed to. After the duel, Nanao told Oliver she had enjoyed their fight and asked to duel again, but Oliver refused, not wanting to risk sending her to her respawn point or sending himself instead. Their second class was Spellology with Francis Gilchrist, who emphasized using only white wands for solving problems as mages. Later, Guy was exhausted from Francis's lectures, while Katie was still energized and was looking forward to the magical biology class. Later in magical biology, their teacher, Vanessa, told the students to treat magical creatures as resources and taught them how to exploit them. She gave them magical silkworms, explaining they would produce as many cocoons as they were fed with magic, but overfeeding would turn them into monsters. The task was to produce 5 normal cocoons from 10 silkworms. Michaela completed the task easily and helped Nanao. Guy asked for help, but Michaela told him to fail 5 times first. He was destined to anyway. Katie, aiming for perfection, went slowly and ended up with a monster silkworm that bit her. Michaela and Oliver killed it, but Vanessa deducted points for helping. Oliver took Katie to the nurse, where Katie shared her family's connection with magical creatures, including a troll, and her discomfort with exploiting animals despite understanding their use for human advancement. Oliver told her she didn't have to choose yet, but reassured her that she wasn't alone. He opened the door and revealed their friends eavesdropping outside, so he meant that literally. Later, Teresa advised Oliver to choose better friends, hinting that Katie's survival chances were as good as Princess Peach's security from Bowser. Oliver insisted on making his own choices, and Teresa informed him she was leaving for Master Gwyn's workshop. After dinner, Pete realized he had lost his book, and Oliver, with Michaela, decided to help him retrieve it. Katie mentioned the labyrinth beneath the academy that encroached at night. They found the book in the spellology class, but soon got lost in the labyrinth. Oliver explained that instructors and upperclassmen often patrolled for lost students. They encountered a woman, Ophelia Salvadori, whom Oliver recognized from her unsettling book. She used magic to control Pete, but Michaela stopped him. Ophelia was surprised Oliver resisted her magic. They ran away but encountered a bone wall, and Cyrus Rivermore, a 5th-year student, who suggested they spend time with Ophelia. As Ophelia approached, she remarked on their coldness and hinted they might need some discipline for trying to run away. Oliver warned Pete not to draw his weapon, fearing it might make Ophelia and Cyrus stand on business and start attacking. Ophelia confronted Cyrus about his disturbing habit of desecrating corpses, but Cyrus pulled the Uno reverse card, accusing her of behavior far worse. He insulted Ophelia by calling her a succubus, which made her mad. Both unleashed magical beasts to fight each other like Pokémons. As they battled, Oliver and his friends attempted to hit the ground running like Sonic. but Cyrus blocked their escape with a bone wall. Just as things seemed worse, Nanao arrived swiftly on the scene. Acknowledging the deadly nature of their surroundings, she dismantled the bone wall with ease and asked Oliver, Pete, and Michaela to run while she crashed the party against Ophelia and Cyrus. Oliver hesitated but eventually joined Nanao in the fight. They were interrupted by Alvin Godfrey, the student body president, who dispelled the summoned creatures and assured Oliver's group of their safety. Carlos Whitrow, another fifth-year student, intervened by holding Ophelia at sword point, ensuring their compliance. Once Ophelia and Cyrus departed under Alvin's supervision, Carlos mentioned their unusual high position in the labyrinth, expressing curiosity about the new students. Alvin and Carlos guided Oliver's group safely out of the labyrinth. Outside, tensions rose as Oliver confronted Nanao for risking her life against Ophelia and Cyrus. Michaela intervened, asking them to chillax and making Nanao explain her reckless behavior. Nanao confessed she had lost the will to live due to past trauma in battle, but found purpose in seeking a meaningful duel without hatred. She admitted feeling hurt when Oliver refused to fight her again, revealing that it had caused her to contemplate sending herself to Jesus. Katie suggested that Nanao's feelings for Oliver had complicated her emotions. Michaela emphasized the need for Nanao to find a reason to live rather than seek a bus ticket to the afterlife, especially now that she had found friendships and love and wasn't a sad, lonely loser anymore. Oliver demanded that Nanao promise not to throw away her life and to fight for herself. Nanao agreed, asking for their guidance in learning to live anew. The next day, Nanao joined Oliver and the others for classes, including sword arts. Luther explained the concept of spell blades, secretive techniques within sword arts that guaranteed fatal strikes within a spell's range. There were only 6 known spell blades, guarded closely by practitioners, making Luther unable to confirm his proficiency. Richard challenged Oliver and Nanao to practice, but Oliver insisted on equality in practice, upsetting Richard. Michaela revealed her history with Richard, feeling responsible for his need to prove himself. Pete interrupted with news that Katie had run off upon hearing plans to send the troll to Jesus from the parade incident. At the parade site, Katie confronted Darius Grenville, who belittled her and threatened the troll's life. He used magic against her, but Oliver and the group arrived in time to prevent further harm. Vera Milligan intervened, stopping any immediate action against the troll. Luther supported her, advocating for a proper investigation before any decisions were made. Vera introduced herself to Katie and offered support due to their shared concern for demi-humans. Meanwhile, a message arrived informing Michaela of Richard's challenge for a duel against Oliver and Nanao. Katie attempted to befriend a troll, but other students spoke the troll's language by trolling her and openly mocking her efforts. Oliver, Guy, and Nanao intervened, standing up to the bullies and defeating them in a fight, which ultimately landed them in the bullies' natural habitat, detention. Katie apologized, but Oliver insisted they had acted out of a lack of control. Michaela supported them but warned that Richard would exploit the situation during their upcoming unfair duel. The next day, guided by fellow students, Oliver and his friends were led to a Colosseum-like arena for their duel with Richard. Richard started it off with an exhibition battle against kobolds, showcasing his skill. He proposed a hunting contest with kobolds as targets, believing victory would restore his honor, the average Prince Zuko catchphrase. During the contest, Nanao confronted the cruelty of the spectacle, angered by how apathetic the students were. When a Garuda unexpectedly attacked, the NPC music stopped as it overpowered students, including Richard's partner. Oliver identified it as a divine beast and warned of its danger. Fearing for his life, Richard attempted to flee from the Garuda like the chicken he really was, but was chased. Nanao intervened, engaging the Garuda in battle while Michaela protected others from the remaining kobolds. Oliver used magic to save Nanao from a fatal blow, sustaining a wound himself. Richard questioned Oliver's courage, and Oliver admitted his fear but admired Nanao's bravery, even though he failed to admit that he was a simp. Rejoining the fight, Oliver and Nanao coordinated their efforts against the Garuda. Despite their best efforts, the Garuda proved resilient until Richard intervened with a decisive strike, allowing Nanao to deliver the final blow. Grateful, Oliver and Nanao acknowledged Richard's bravery and resolve. Reflecting on the duel, Richard admitted his fears of failure and embarrassment. Nanao reaffirmed the samurai's commitment to fight without hesitation once engaged. Oliver, however, believed there was no dishonor in retreating from an unbeatable foe, like Choji when he gets called fat. Inspired by Richard's courage, Oliver vowed to remember his honorable stand, forging a newfound respect. Nanao, moved by Richard's display, called him a comrade in arms, leaving Richard emotional as he departed. Oliver reassured Teresa, asking her not to worry about the unpredictable Garuda appearances, while Teresa vowed to shield him no matter what. Meanwhile, Katie persisted in her efforts to befriend the troll and eventually succeeded in making him happy by making his stomach even happier, despite Vera being skeptical about it. After a bizarre anatomy class, Oliver and his gang found themselves ostracized like Naruto when he was a kid. Now that nobody was laughing at Katie, she basically passed the baton to them. Oliver suspected a link to a demi-human rights activist stirring trouble. Nanao became the hot toast of the school post-Garuda incident, leaving Katie feeling overshadowed. Michaela playfully tried to kiss Oliver in gratitude, joined by Nanao, leaving him blushing furiously like Hinata anytime Naruto slightly noticed her. Oliver's cousin popped up out of nowhere, introducing herself and leaving him bewildered. In alchemy class with Darius Grenville, students were warned about dangerous potions. Oliver prevented potential disasters caused by Pete, earning Darius's praise and advice on picking friends wisely, unlike Oliver, who befriended people straight out of Ed, and Eddie. Richard warned Oliver about Darius's scheming ways ahead of a meeting on the troll incident. Annie Mackley apologized for her prank on Katie and swore she wasn't behind the troll's odd behavior. Katie visited the troll, who cryptically warned her of danger, causing Oliver and Nanao to smell something fishy. Nanao honed her powers under Oliver's watchful eye, aiming to be a helpful force. Oliver questioned if the troll's actions were part of a plot involving demi-human rights activists. During a labyrinth investigation, Oliver stumbled upon Katie's sword near the troll's cage. The troll hinted that Katie might be in the same dark place where he once languished. Oliver recalled past experiments on demi-human intelligence, suspecting ongoing covert activities. Their exploration hit a snag with an unexpected attack rained on their parade with rains of attacks. Oliver and Nanao woke up in Vera's workshop, where she spilled her plans about manipulating the Garuda and the troll, with limited success. Vera, intrigued by Katie's troll whispering abilities, tried to nab her for study. Nanao launched into action against Vera, exposing her deadly basilisk eye, a family heirloom that turned her siblings to stone, typical Medusa lore. Oliver swooped in, saving Nanao and realizing the depths of Vera's mad scientist experiments. Oliver attacked Vera with Tenitris, but Vera pulled the Uno reverse card and countered with a stronger Tenitris.
Talo!
Nanao then engaged Vera in a sword fight. Vera outmatched Nanao, tripping her, and as she moved to finish her off, Oliver intervened. The two continued fighting Vera, who handled them easily. Vera shot out an impetus blast, which Nanao deflected with her sword like the typical samurai she was. Impressed by their skills, Vera got excited. Oliver formed a plan with Nanao. He created a bouncy trampoline-type thingy to send Nanao behind Vera, while he distracted her with attack spells. Nanao charged Vera from behind, but Oliver realized Vera had a basilisk's eye on her left hand. Nanao also saw this and, understanding that the curse traveled at the speed of light, managed to cut through space and time to sever Vera's left arm before she could petrify her. Vera lost consciousness from the shock. Oliver realized Nanao's attack was an unavoidable seventh spellblade. Nanao requested a victory kiss, but Alvin and Carlos arrived, surprised they managed to handle Vera on their own, explaining they came after an anonymous tip. Later, Oliver and the group explained to Katie that Vera wanted to help and work with her. However, Katie did something Vera couldn't. She made the troll talk. The troll was now considered a unique species that can also stand on business, so the school wouldn't get rid of him. Katie, happy and grateful, kissed Oliver and Nanao. She decided to speak with Vera and resolve their relationship. Oliver was overjoyed that Katie remained kind and that he got a kiss he probably would never get again. A few days later, Darius called Oliver to discuss a student's research. Darius faced several strong monsters, but defeated them easily. At the research site, Darius explained a gate brought the monsters, which devoured each other, leaving only the strongest. Darius closed the gate. Oliver suspected Darius knew about the troll and was supplying Vera with demi-humans. Darius revealed his dream was to eliminate stupidity in humans, intending to use the same technique on them. Darius invited Oliver to join him. Oliver asked Darius about his whereabouts on a specific date, revealing he had been targeting Darius. Realizing Oliver's connection to a woman he once tortured, Darius drew his sword. Oliver foresaw Darius winning in most outcomes, but found a way to defeat him using the fourth spell blade, Angustavia. Darius, surprised, realized Oliver was the woman's son. Oliver explained he experienced all the 128 forms of pain Darius inflicted on his mother, and would torture Darius until he found the right words to say. After the 57th pain spell, Darius asked for death, and Oliver obliged, killing him. Oliver's cousins Gwyn and Shannon Sherwood and his secret guard Teresa Cast appeared. Gwyn forbade Oliver from using the spellblade more than twice to avoid death. Teresa pledged to continue serving him. Gwyn gave Oliver a mask, asking him to lead their group in avenging his mother by killing Vanessa Aldis, Francis Gilchrist, Enrico Forghieri, Demetrio Aristides, Baldia Muezicamili, and Esmeralda. Oliver reflected on Nanao's words about the joylessness of revenge and prepared to find out if they were true. 4 months after Darius did the peace sign and disappeared, Esmeralda gathered Francis, Enrico, Demetrio, Baldia, Vanessa, Garland, and Theodore, like they were the Avengers. She speculated that Darius was likely dead, possibly killed in the labyrinth, prompting Vanessa to suggest that only their group or Garland and Theodore could have accomplished it. Theodore, unexpectedly present, took it as high praise. Vanessa questioned if anyone was involved in Darius's demise but was met with silence. Esmeralda asserted consequences for any student involved, though Vanessa doubted a student's capability. Pete woke suddenly, realizing he had transformed into a female body, distancing himself from friends throughout the day. Michaela attempted to greet Stacy, her relative and attendant, who ignored her, keeping her distance since school began. Their teacher, Dustin Hedges, arrived for broomstick riding class, explaining that the brooms were living creatures that chose their riders. Oliver brought his own broom. Brooms flocked around Nanao except for a solitary bucking broom, warned by Dustin of its unpredictability. Nanao approached and calmed it, bonding as its master. Dustin marveled, having failed to tame it previously. Oliver recognized it as his mother's broom. During alchemy class with substitute teacher Theodore, news of Darius's disappearance spread. Michaela mentioned rumors of his demise in the labyrinth. Theodore, Michaela's father, acknowledged the confusion and apologized for his absence, trusting Michaela to care for Nanao. He revealed himself as their temporary alchemy teacher, discussing his book with Stacy and Pete, impressed by Pete's deep knowledge. In their first magical engineering class with Enrico Forghieri, students dismantled magical traps. Oliver shielded Pete from a trap's snakes with his body, using Tenitris to neutralize them. Enrico praised their effort and provided antidote lollipops. Oliver privately confronted Pete about his transformation, revealing Pete's status as a reversee, someone who switches sexes like avatars in a video game. Pete demonstrated newfound prowess with Tenitris, and Oliver explained gender-based elemental affinities. Carlos Whitrow appeared, aware of Pete's change and offering further insights in a letter. That evening, Oliver and Pete joined Alvin in the labyrinth for a gathering of individuals with sex-based magical traits. Alvin apologized for the recent incidents, striving to improve labyrinth safety. At the event, Oliver and Pete met others with similar traits, including Oliver's cousin performing music alongside Carlos. Oliver explained Carlos's enchanting voice as pure rather than charm-based. Pete, still adjusting, decided to stay with Oliver rather than have his own room at school, feeling supported in his new body. Michaela enlightened Nanao about various broom sports, discussing their difficulties within the magical world. Their conversation was interrupted by Tullio Rossi, a confident first year who introduced himself and predicted future encounters like Bruno that we aren't meant to talk about. During sword arts practice, Pete faced Tullio, rushing forward only to be swiftly tripped and defeated. The teacher advised Pete to temper his approach, causing Tullio to make fun of Pete's reliance on friends for protection and calling him princess. He must think he's a savage. Seeking to improve, Pete turned to Michela and Oliver for guidance, sparking a debate over which basic combat style to teach him. The group suggested Michela focus on offense, while Oliver instructed defense, aiming to empower Pete without confining him to a single style. Oliver demonstrated the importance of distance and decision-making in combat, advising Pete against relying solely on magic at mid-range. Meanwhile, Tullio observed their training and approached them, expressing his desire to test the strength of the first-year students, especially with Nanao currently in the lead. Stacy and Faye joined the challenge, followed by Michela, Oliver, and Nanao themselves. Tullio outlined the rules of a medal-based competition where participants exchanged medals upon defeat, aiming to gather the most within a week to reach the finals. The competition began with Evelyn Odetz challenging Nanao, intending to exploit Nanao's weakness in magic. However, Nanao's superior combat skills prevailed, defeating Evelyn and advancing confidently. Michela vowed to reach the finals alongside Oliver and Nanao, anticipating challenging matches ahead. After training Pete, Oliver encountered Teresa, who hinted at potential tension between Shannon, Gwyn, and Oliver over an invitation for tea. Along his labyrinthine journey, Oliver met Ophelia, who advised him to be cautious and shared concerns about his safety in dangerous adventures. Arriving at the invitation from Shannon and Gwyn, Oliver learned more about Ophelia's relationships and discussed Nanao's mysterious seventh spellblade. Oliver felt compelled to assist Nanao, sensing an unspoken connection to her. On his way back, Oliver confronted Tullio, questioning his motives for following him. Tullio challenged Oliver to a duel with specific rules against using magic beyond anti-lethality spells at half strength. Tullio employed dirty tactics, but Oliver adapted, ultimately defeating him in 8 strategic moves. Tullio acknowledged Oliver's skill with a mixture of frustration and respect, awarding him a medal despite his defeat. Reflecting on his experiences, Oliver acknowledged his envy towards those with inherent talents and wondered about his own path and training. Outside the labyrinth, Teresa congratulated Oliver on his victory, revealing her deep feelings for him in a shy and awkward moment. In another part of the labyrinth, Tullio faced another student, leaving observers surprised by his earlier defeat and wondering if he still had medals left to lose. Oliver found Pete in pain due to mana flow issues in his female form. Using healing arts, Oliver helped Pete adjust his mana flow, which his body wasn't accustomed to handling in his female state. Pete felt better after the treatment, and Oliver assured him that adjusting would take time. He encouraged Pete to let him know if he felt discomfort again, and warned him about the challenges of keeping his situation secret. The next day, Pete decided to confide in his friends about being a reversee. Michela explained that female bodies can store mana in their womb, and showed Pete how to tap into this mana, which could enhance his magical abilities. Katie suggested Pete could explore wearing female clothes with his new form, but Pete wasn't interested. I'm not surprised. Tullio appeared and revealed he had quit the competition after another loss. He cautioned Oliver about facing strong opponents and wondered if Pete had improved. During sword practice, Pete faced Stacy, but struggled to land any hits. His friends reminded him to use his magic, but Pete couldn't effectively use his reversey powers yet, disappointing Stacy on how useless he still was. Despite the challenges, Pete nearly landed a hit on Stacy before time ran out. His friends comforted him, but Tullio emphasized that a loss was a loss. Tullio then announced he would start learning the basics as well. Katie received a message from Vera allowing her to use a workshop in the labyrinth. Katie shared her plan to create a sanctuary for magical fauna mistreated by the school, seeking help from her friends. Oliver and the others expressed concerns about the risks, but agreed to visit the workshop the next day. In the labyrinth, the group encountered various magical fauna. Katie led them through a path filled with bow shells, creatures with spikes that could cause harm. Using her skills, Katie safely navigated them through a trap set by freshmen before they encountered a group enjoying a barbecue. The group declined the invitation, finding the food as unsettling as Sakura's food pills. Continuing their journey, they found a girl selling labyrinth ingredients who offered them a discount. They finally reached the workshop, impressed by its size and resources. After a barbecue, Michaela suggested naming their group and workshop. Nanao summoned her soccer naming skills and named them Sword Roses, symbolizing their bond as warriors. The group agreed, feeling a bit embarrassed but excited about the name's significance. The group stayed overnight at their new secret base, where in the morning, Nanao expressed her desire to train with Oliver in sword fighting. However, Oliver suggested practicing spell fights instead, which disappointed Nanao. Their training was interrupted by Guy's screams, leading them to discover Katie with a surprise guest, a troll named Marco. Oliver wondered if Marco had come alone, but Vera revealed she had brought him, struggling to move him herself. Pete woke up looking for his glasses, which Vera's creation Millihand handed to him with its strange, eye-bearing hand. Michaela questioned Vera about her true motives for organizing Katie's workshop. Vera explained that she saw potential in Katie and hoped to share in her future success. Katie wanted to care for the troll, making the base the best place for it to live. Marco admitted enjoying spending time with Katie, who often spoke fondly of Oliver, though Katie quickly changed the subject. Marco considered them all Katie's friends, thus making them his friends too, a sentiment Oliver confirmed. Before leaving, Vera showed them the nearest entrance to the base, cautioning that it was not always accessible, which was why she initially guided them on a longer route. Venturing deeper into the labyrinth, the group reached a point where Michaela warned them about entering the second layer, known as the bustling forest, which was larger and more perilous. Despite Michaela's suggestion to turn back, Stacy insisted on staying and challenged Michaela to a tournament fight, proposing a 2-on-2 battle, Stacy and Faye against any two from their group. Nanao eagerly accepted the challenge, making Oliver go to Michaela to discuss Stacy and Faye's teamwork and how to dunk on them. Michaela confirmed their synchronization was just like a master and knight, and Oliver agreed to the challenge, knowing Nanao was eager to face them like Goku always wanting a fight. Just then, another student, Joseph Albright, revealed himself and proposed a 3-on-3 match to prove their superiority. Oliver, aware of the Albright family's reputation for skilled mages, accepted the challenge and agreed to choose a third member from their group. Stacy hesitated, but Faye convinced her it was a strategic move against Michaela. Joseph led them deeper into the second layer, with Marco pledging to protect them. The battle commenced with negotiations to reduce the power of lethal spells by half. Stacy warned Joseph against betrayal, clarifying that his focus was solely on fighting Nanao rather than aiding them. Oliver engaged Joseph in combat, initially blinding Faye before facing Joseph directly. Meanwhile, Michaela questioned Stacy's motives, but Stacy deflected. Nanao enjoyed observing Stacy and Michaela's duel until Faye distracted her with a smokescreen, initiating a game of tag. Oliver's acrobatic style impressed Joseph initially, but Joseph criticized Oliver's predictability. Oliver managed to surprise Joseph with an attack that nicked his face, challenging Joseph's reliance on textbooks. Joseph grinned, ready to escalate the fight. Meanwhile, Faye stalled for time while Stacy prepared a surprise attack. Nanao pursued Faye until he reunited with Stacy, strategizing their next move. Stacy questioned Faye's commitment, recalling how she once saved him. Faye affirmed his loyalty, allowing Stacy to cast Luna Plana, transforming Faye into a werewolf under her control. Together they attacked Michaela and Nanao, with Nanao's blow having no effect on Faye's Giga Chad werewolf form. Michaela explained the challenges of fighting a half-werewolf like Faye, who endured intense pain from the transformation. Stacy expressed determination to defeat Michaela and gain acceptance from her family. Michaela asked Stacy not to prolong Faye's suffering, revealing that his enrollment meant he wasn't a pure-blooded werewolf. Reflecting on her past struggles and desire for acceptance, Stacy resolved to press on. Nanao blocked their attacks, acknowledging their dedication to the fight like Might Guy does every time he challenges Kakashi. Michaela agreed not to ask Stacy to undo Faye's transformation, sensing the battle's conclusion drawing near. Joseph mocked Oliver, saying he lacked talent and tricks, and that he was as basic and useless as an NPC, not Sakura's level yet. Oliver brushed off his insults, knowing they didn't affect him. He continued attacking, using spells up close, which Oliver countered. Stacy decided to challenge Michaela, aiming to avoid Nanao's sword range. As Stacy and Faye charged, Michaela used a spell, Tenitris, catching Stacy off guard and incapacitating her. Michaela adjusted her spell to affect Stacy more than Faye, who remained relatively unharmed. Despite this setback, Stacy stood and fought, but Michaela proved too powerful, pointing out Stacy's lack of mental training. Meanwhile, Joseph and Oliver dueled fiercely like it was the tournament of power, trying to unbalance each other. Joseph gained a momentary advantage, pushing Oliver, but Oliver countered with a decisive move, Impetus, claiming victory. In another part of the battle, Michaela defeated Stacy, who cried out in frustration, questioning her abilities. Faye explained their family's dynamics, where Stacy, from a branch family, hoped to prove herself worthy of recognition from her father, Theodore McFarlane. Such a fire name, Lightning McQueen got competition. Joseph later shared a story about Emma, a girl his age who once defeated him in chess after hard work and dedication. However, Joseph's father punished him severely for losing, teaching him the Albright family's strict code of superiority, average Karin Kanzuki law. Joseph summoned bees, threatening to erase their memories unless they surrendered, driven by his duty to maintain his family's image. Nanao defeated Joseph, who acknowledged the lesson of defeat and was a complete failure for tarnishing his family's image twice. Stacy learned Michaela's restraint in their duel and bridged their differences with a shared history. Oliver and Joseph reconciled, but magical beasts captured Pete, Faye, and others outside the labyrinth. Alvin and Carlos warned against further expeditions, revealing Ophelia's shady involvement in the disappearances. Stacy attacked one of the bees, causing the others to retaliate like it's game on, forcing the group into a battle. Guy constructed a barricade using his plans, giving them temporary shelter. Katie used incense to repel the bees, knowing it wouldn't last long. As they debated surrendering to Joseph, Oliver suggested erasing their memories of the fight to end the conflict peacefully. Nanao preferred Joseph to face a genuine defeat, out of pity for someone unable to accept loss. Katie, Guy, and Pete rejected surrender and sought alternatives. Oliver proposed a risky plan, while Michaela hinted at a hidden power she had kept secret. The group used incense, agitating the bees to attack the barricade. Michaela transformed, revealing her half-human, half-elf heritage, confirming rumors about Theodore's elven wife. The bees broke through, endangering Katie until Marco shielded her. Together, they performed a double incantation, Magnus Tenitris, to defeat most of the bees. Stacy noted the strain of double incantations, but Michaela explained that her elven heritage made it easier. Nanao joined the fight, defeating more bees and confronting Joseph, ultimately defeating him with a single blow like One Punch Man.
How?
Joseph accepted his defeat, feeling liberated. Stacy questioned why Michaela had held back her power in their fight. Michaela wanted to challenge herself and extend their interaction. Michaela revealed a flower diadem Stacy had made long ago, treasured despite their differences. Oliver encouraged Joseph to grow stronger for their next encounter. Suddenly, a magical beast appeared, capturing Joseph and several others. Oliver asked the group to flee as they were outnumbered. One beast targeted Stacy, but Faye sacrificed himself to protect her. Pete was also captured as they escaped. Outside the labyrinth, Oliver informed Alvin and Carlos about the beasts capturing his friends and others. They realized Ophelia Salvadori's involvement, warning against further labyrinth expeditions. Alvin gathered students to search for Ophelia Salvadori, and days passed with no news of Pete. Guy wanted to search, hoping to find Pete alive, but Nanao warned of the likelihood of death for missing people in her country. Oliver believed Pete was taken alive by Ophelia's chimeras. Feeling powerless, they returned to normal school life like nothing was happening. Oliver consulted Gwyn and Shannon about saving Pete. They planned to join the student council to hunt Ophelia in the labyrinth's third layer. Katie sought help from Luther, who said teachers could intervene only after 8 days. Michaela asked her father for help, but was told friends were lost without power to protect them. Feeling responsible, Michaela planned to enter the labyrinth that night. Oliver wanted to go with her, but Vera intervened. Vera proposed a deal to Katie. In exchange for helping save Pete, Katie would join Vera's research to increase Pete's survival chances. Vera explained Ophelia's dangerous experiments with synthetic beasts and mana extraction. Katie agreed despite Oliver's objections. Nanao, Oliver and Guy were persuaded not to go. Vera equipped Katie with Millihand and warned of its role if she didn't return. Meanwhile, Pete shook off the Z's and greeted the day in a cell with other students in the labyrinth. Vera revealed her clan's history with succubi and Ophelia's use of kidnapped students for mana. The group prepared with Vera's potions against Ophelia's threats. Kevin gave Alvin a map, but failed to find Ophelia's lair. Encountering a chimera, Vera asked the group to watch her fight to save Pete. She showed them that the chimera saw as much as Toph did by using decoys, and advised them to keep moving when fighting large beasts. She emphasized the need for a plan to deliver a decisive attack. Even though the chimera adapted and ignored the decoys, Vera explained they could still use this to their advantage. By slowing her movements, she tricked the chimera into thinking she was another decoy, allowing her to approach and defeat it easily. Vera stressed the importance of observing the creature, identifying its weaknesses, and making a plan, noting they didn't have to do it alone. The group then moved on to the second layer of the labyrinth. Carlos shared that their family's alliance had led them to meet young Ophelia. They expressed a desire to be her friend, despite Ophelia's doubts due to past experiences where all homies reacted strangely to her presence. Carlos, however, was unaffected by her perfume because he was a real Chad. After meeting her, they wished for Ophelia to find happiness like anyone else. Oliver's group had been trekking for hours when Nanao grew hungry, prompting a stop to eat Guy's cakes. Oliver noticed Teresa and went to fetch water, taking the chance to talk with her. He asked about Gwyn and Shannon's progress, learning they were nearing the third layer. Teresa was tasked to bring Oliver back if they crossed paths, with Oliver's authority overruling Gwyn and Shannon's. Teresa volunteered to scout ahead, with Oliver cautioning her to report dangers, but not to act recklessly like Naruto after he just learned the Rasengan. Continuing onward, they faced their largest obstacle, the colossal tree, Irminsul. While climbing it, Oliver questioned Vera about the underground labyrinth's artificial sun. Vera explained its ancient origins and their current absence of encounters with beasts. Eventually, they entered a beast territory. Vera instructed them to maintain eye contact without showing fear. A stressed beast monkey appeared, missing fingers likely lost in clashes with Ophelia's chimeras. Vera attempted to intimidate it, but Nanao intervened peacefully. After a brief standoff, the beast retreated to its lair, sensing no threat from the group. Meanwhile, in another part of the bustling forest, Stacy enlisted her elder half-sister Lynette to aid in rescuing Faye from the labyrinth. Before the group could resume their journey, a mantis chimera appeared. The beast monkey confronted it, but was swiftly defeated. Vera left Oliver, Michaela, and Nanao to face it, observing how they applied her teachings. Oliver and Michaela used spells, but the chimera's armor was too resilient. Nanao managed to wound its leg, but it healed almost instantly, not your typical Dark Souls boss. Oliver and Michaela then employed ice and fire spells to weaken its defenses. Oliver struck it with Tonitrus, but it wasn't enough to defeat the chimera. Working together, they managed to immobilize its head using Guy's seeds. No, not that kind. As Oliver moved into attack, the chimera shot hidden spikes at him, but he anticipated this and blocked them. Vera intervened, and they eventually defeated the chimera. Afterwards, the group encountered several more chimeras and magical beasts, engaging in battles along their path like some co-op medieval video game. They eventually stopped to rest. Oliver couldn't sleep much, prompting Vera to question why they risked their lives for Pete, someone they barely knew. Oliver talked about how they had formed a bond during an incident at the entrance ceremony, where Pete, from a non-magical family, had shown bravery despite fear. Vera admired their friendship and expressed curiosity about Oliver's combat abilities, considering his ordinary background. She speculated something in his past might explain his skills, but didn't pry. Vera warned they were approaching the perilous third layer and worried about Pete's condition. Meanwhile, Joseph woke up to find Pete unaffected by Ophelia's perfume because he wasn't a simp. Either that, or he had transformed into a woman.
Wait a minute!
Joseph cautioned Pete to keep quiet to avoid Ophelia's wrath, then handed over explosive and distress orbs for escape. Joseph entrusted Pete with his life, advising patience until an opportunity arose while Ophelia was away from the workshop, probably to get milk or something. 3 days had passed since Oliver and his group entered the labyrinth like miners in Minecraft. Guy grew increasingly worried, but Katie reassured him, believing they would save Pete and emphasizing that all they could do for now was take class notes for them. Guy was especially concerned about Oliver facing Ophelia and her perfume, but Katie remained confident in Oliver. As Oliver's group got closer to Ophelia, her perfume started affecting Oliver. He asked Nanao to keep some distance. Nanao was confused until Vera explained that Ophelia's perfume made men very culturally charged. Vera told Oliver to take medicine to counteract the effect, but it seemed he didn't mind being a bit cultured. They planned to continue by boat, so Oliver told Teresa to head back. Before boarding the boat, Vera decided to teach them how to walk on water like everyone in Naruto already does. They got their update late. Although Oliver and Michaela had heard of the spell, it hadn't been mastered because it wasn't taught to first-year students. After Vera's explanation, the group practiced and quickly learned the spell. Vera noticed an unusual lack of beasts in the lake. Suddenly, Cyrus Rivermore appeared and summoned a skeletal snake-like beast. Vera explained that Ophelia had kidnapped one of Oliver's friends, and they were on a rescue mission. Cyrus believed they would meet their creator anyway, and decided to send them to him to say hi for him, but Michaela proposed cooperation. She guessed that Cyrus wanted to be the first to obtain Ophelia's research and offered it to him in exchange for their friend's freedom. However, Cyrus clarified he was there to fulfill a minor obligation and attend Ophelia's funeral. Vera seized the opportunity and lured a water chimera to attack Cyrus's creature, exploiting the distraction. Alvin felt guilty for not helping Ophelia enough, even if it wasn't his fault. Their group gained popularity, and other students wanted to join them like they were auditioning for a band. One evening, a group of students confronted Ophelia, questioning why she acted like Alvin's assistant. They accused her of using her perfume to control him and claimed there were better healers available. Ophelia asked if they'd accept her if she were strong, and they agreed. She then created a monster and attacked them. From that point on, Ophelia started using her perfume more openly. Tim got annoyed and accused her of trying to enchant Alvin into wanting to get Plot so bad. When she didn't deny it, Tim attacked her in anger. Alvin later found Tim defeated. Meanwhile, at Ophelia's lair, Ophelia finally left, unable to hold on any longer. Pete seized the opportunity to escape. He blasted out of his cell, evaded patrolling chimeras, retrieved his athame, and made it outside. He then threw the distress orb, hoping someone would notice it and come to help. Pete managed to send a distress signal, but collapsed shortly after, fearing he might not see his friends again. Instead, he was going to see his game over screen. Oliver and his group arrived and were relieved to find Pete alive. However, Ophelia returned and discovered Pete was a reversee. They were both Steve and Alex from Minecraft. Vera suggested that since they had only come for Pete and Ophelia didn't need him, they should be allowed to leave. Ophelia, claiming to have mastered Salvadori magic, started chanting a spell. Despite their efforts to stop her, she completed the incantation, creating a grand aria, a dome where her rules dominated. Stacy and Lynette arrived, making Michaela realize they were all trapped together. Vera explained that they were likely in Ophelia's womb, a place designed for endless chimera creation, and they could only escape if Ophelia lifted the spell or died. While Vera and Michaela attacked Ophelia, Oliver and the rest focused on defending them. Vera taunted Ophelia about her first love, Alvin, provoking her. Ophelia captured and tortured Vera, but was unaffected by Vera's petrification curse. Vera continued to make fun of her, which enraged Ophelia, who incapacitated Vera. The group shifted their strategy to fighting chimeras to create an opening for Nanao to strike Ophelia. Nanao got close but hesitated when she saw Ophelia crying, unable to harm a crying child. Nanao apologized to Oliver, explaining she couldn't bring herself to hurt a child. Michaela apologized to Pete for not being able to protect him, but Pete took up his sword to fight alongside her as the real Chad that he was. Witnessing their solidarity, Ophelia reflected on her loneliness and regretted her actions. Suddenly, part of the Grand Aria's walls broke like Madara's hopes and dreams when Kaguya appeared, and Carlos and Alvin entered, apologizing for their delay and saying they came for Ophelia. Despite Ophelia's warning to stay away, Carlos approached her. Carlos removed a tattoo from their neck and started singing, causing the Grand Aria to begin falling apart like the walls of Jericho. Alvin told Oliver that Carlos and Ophelia's families had an agreement. Carlos was sent to be with Ophelia in case she ever lost control of her magic. Oliver realized Carlos was a castrato, someone who had their genitals removed as a child to keep their voice special, which also made them resistant to certain types of magic. Carlos hugged Ophelia and apologized for not being able to make her happy, but assured her of their love. Ophelia hugged back, but showed him the Uno reverse card by saying she hated them instead. Alvin said goodbye, and then both Carlos and Ophelia disappeared along with the Grand Aria. The students returned to the surface since incidents like what happened with Ophelia were common at their school. People soon stopped talking about it and went back to their normal routines. Oliver reflected that Ophelia's trip to Valhalla was better than what likely awaited him. As a reminder of his grim thoughts, the Sword Roses walked by several teachers Oliver planned to confront someday, and he glared at them. Nanao then interrupted with some very important information. She was hungry, and that's the end of this video. Thanks for joining us on this thrilling journey through challenges and growth. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to catch the next exciting chapter. What was your favorite moment? Let us know in the comments below. See you next time for more adventures.